not be amended or put onto the town ballot in March. But it will keep coming up on the agenda. There's at least one more. I have one more meeting to go.
We get to vote on it.
So aren't we supposed to actually decide whether we move it forward or not?
Well,
not whether we continue with as a working document. I think we have to decide.
The very next item here is the board may vote to adopt the document or amendments in whole or in part. When the zoning ordinances are under consideration, the board shall vote whether to place each amendment on the town meeting ballot. So if we don't vote to adopt it as an amendment, proposed amendment, then we don't have to take that next step as to whether or not to vote for it.
So is the way he worded his motion appropriate?
Well, I think Cliff would like to disagree.
Yeah.
Please, let's hear it.
I would ask that Gary withdraw his motion for a short period of time.
What's a short period of time?
Oh, I don't
3
know.
months.
Couple of minutes.
Yes, I'll withdraw my motion for a couple of minutes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Cliff.
I would make a motion that we do not move forward with this towards this March meeting. We do not accept the public comments or change this document, and that we just not move forward with it.
So you're saying table it?
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no discussion,
Went the other way.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands.
I say aye.
1, 2, 3. There's 3 ayes. Got that, George? All opposed? Aye.
I'm
You're
abstaining.
abstaining? Okay. So 3 to 3. Did you vote against it?
I voted against the proposal. I'd rather see it move forward.
Okay, so we have
No,
3 to 3.
I think you guys misunderstood the motion. The motion is to table it to close it. Then Gary can remake a motion to open it back up and accept it as a working document. We either have to move this document forward
Okay. I'm with you now.
and accept it with or without changes. As a procedural thing, you have to either accept the document or table
What I
it.
was getting at.
And then move it either towards the March meeting or just table it so it's not going towards the March meeting. After that is done, then you can make a motion to
Bring it back onto the agenda.
reopen the table and make it a working document and move it forward from there. But because it's been a public hearing, we have to decide whether or not we're going forward with this document to March meeting or not.
I misunderstood the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make another motion,
So wait a minute. If
because you've already voted and we
we
have a
voted
tie.
3 to 3, and we have a tie because Eddie abstained. So the motion failed.
That's right.
So is there another motion on the floor? Please, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion not to move forward with this document to March meeting.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'll reword it.
I'm sorry, how is that different from the last motion that you said?
It doesn't kill.
I didn't table it. I
He
just
didn't
said not to
table it.
move
He
it to
just
the March
said
meeting.
Doesn't kill
Not
it.
move it
Just
forward.
Don't
By not
push it for the meeting.
By tabling it, it just goes away. By not tabling it, it just stays a working document but doesn't move forward.
That's the motion I made, I think.
No,
Hey,
no,
I'll-
it Cliff's right on that.
Okay, so it was seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How many ayes was that?
Aye.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to abstain this time.
Checking off.
So what do we have? 3 and 3 again?
No, we have
6 and 1
6 and 1
abstention.
abstention. Thank you.
So this document will not be going forward towards to this March meeting.
Yes. It is a Sisyphean effort.
This document's not dead.
No, it's
Not by a long
remains
shot.
working document.
No, it's not. We're just not going to the March meeting with it.
You've been clear that you are going to filibuster anything related to 18 months. That's bad. I don't see why this is bad. It's not bad.
I don't think it's totally bad. I just think that it's missing some
Okay.
wording and it makes some unnecessary changes.
Gentlemen haven't been here for the last 3 meetings, and we have deliberated very closely to this. And neither one of you have seen fit to show up.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
All right, let's not get into the personal stuff. Let's just, next item on the agenda, Review and possible approval of the minutes of the December 12th planning board meeting. Exciting stuff. Everybody got a copy? If you don't, there's more right here.
I have a copy, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Actually, I have a change that I was going to suggest here before you make that motion.
Okay, then
Item 4, old business. It says annual inspection of gravel pits. Chairman Welton reported that he had reviewed the ordinances, informed the planning board that 2 site visits are required. Actually, what I found in there was no reference at all to required visits.
Did you go out yet?
Nope.
You want to go now?
Can you,
Too late.
I'm not following you, Tom.
At that meeting, the day of that meeting.
Where are you talking
Oh,
here?
I'm sorry, that's on page 2 of 3.
Yeah?
4B. Boy, that was not well said by me.
I don't,
Annual inspection of gravel pits.
I don't have a 4B.
Oh, my goodness. Sorry, dyslexic.
There you go, little dyslexic.
Less dyslexic. Okay. Guess I'm not Roman.
So I'm sorry, Tom, I'm confused. How can you do a annual inspection of a gravel pit without actually going looking at it?
Well, what
Inspect it without being there?
No. What I found when I read the earth excavation documents, what I was looking for is what we were supposed to do by going to visit these. And in turn, what I ended up finding was there is no required visit. And I talked to Eddie about that, and he said that the inspections, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but
It was more of a agreed upon, it wasn't part of our actual procedure, it's just something that the planning board agreed to do yearly, just to keep the planning board, the present planning board members abreast of what's going on.
and it's kind of important to make that distinction because that it is not required, because in the end it didn't end up happening. So it was that the 2 site visits are not required. I'm not sure how we can just do that.
But is that what you said at the meeting?
Right, but that's what it was gravel.
And that's what needs to be in here, not whether you're right, wrong, or indifferent, is
Which
what
is
you
what the
said.
selectman told me.
Who's the gravel pit?
Tom?
Pardon?
It's not, the minutes need to reflect what you said.
Right,
whether it's-
I'm trying to think of exactly what the hell I said.
Well, I mean, there's a good chance this is what you said. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. Editing minutes
Well-
isn't to straighten out my thoughts, it's to straighten out.
All right, well then we'll leave it as is, that's fine.
The minutes do reflect my recollection of
What was said.
what was said.
All right,
Yeah,
well let's,
that's why I agreed.
no, let's leave it as is then. No. Well, it turns out they are not required, but they weren't made because we ran out of time.
The year's not over yet,
Yeah, it's just begun.
Calendar year, isn't it?
is it?
No, this was for 2011.
Is it a calendar year though?
Or is it a
Town
tax-
year goes
Or is
from
it a tax year?
Town year goes from April.
I have no idea
April
the answer
1st
to that question. I have been assuming this
No,
whole time that it was
town year
calendar
goes
year.
January January 1st.
Oh, it does. Oh, that's right, it does.
Because that's right.
So it is a calendar year.
But
Okay, that, I've just been assuming that. I
Yeah,
didn't
it is
have
a
any
calendar year. I'm
documentation.
thinking we make changes April 1st to the board.
So I did make a motion, sir.
Okay, so Ed made a motion to accept as written. Is there a second?
As amended?
As written. Anybody want to second that? Oh, I'm sorry. You're not on the board right now. But, yeah, you're not on the board at the moment.
Well, you read
Sorry.
the motion, read the motion again.
The motion was to accept these draft
Minutes as
Oh, I
approved.
got it
presented.
qualified myself, I can't remember.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
2 abstentions? No opposition.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I
sir.
have to leave for 2 seconds.
All right.
1,000, 2 1,000.
Okay.
3 1,000.
Why don't we seat, Booney, you're it. You're going to sit for Eddie for 3 minutes. Would you like to sit there rather than over there?
No, I'm gonna figure something.
Yeah, okay, just, I know you prefer that, yeah. Okay. Next. Old business, conditional use application. George, do we have the final version of that handy? With the amendment that we made with the dates? Well, I guess we should, before we get into that. Yes. It was actually at the last meeting, we discussed, the big question that came up at the last meeting, just to review, was could the planning board put its own time limit on a conditional use? And the initial response, and the correspondence is actually in the draft minutes we just approved, with the planning board's counsel. The initial response was, no, you can't do that. And when that came back to the planning board several meetings back, everyone scratched their heads and said, that's not what we heard when she visited us. So I responded a second time and expressed what was in the zoning and expressed the board's concern that that seemed to be a mixed message from what we had had before. And her response is actually quite frank, actually. Tom, well, this will teach me to review the zoning ordinance prior to answering questions. As a general rule, my answer is correct. The board cannot put time limits on variances, special exceptions, or conditional use permits. However, whereas in Brookfield, the zoning ordinance itself allows the board to put time limits on conditional use permits, the question becomes less clear. Since the conditional use permits are not required by the Constitution, as are variances, and since they are innovative land use controls, unlike special exceptions, it is not clear that the legislative body cannot give the board the authority to impose time limits on conditional use permits. There is no case law on this issue, but we could certainly make the argument. So in other words, that last statement is very important. There's no case law settled on this yet. So the way it is written in the zoning is that the board has the ability to put a time limit on the conditional use permit, thus the conditional use in action. Since the town has given us, the legislative body has given the board that ability, she is backing up our ability to do that, and she feels that the case could be made in court if it ever came up. So based on that, I asked George to put a reference to a time limit back into the conditional use application. And that's what we need to discuss at this point. Because we've gone through that conditional use application 10 different ways. I think most folks on the board are satisfied that it covers all the important points, but this was the final sticking point before we vote to adopt it, as far as I'm concerned. Yes? Thank you, Booney. Did you get a chance to work on that, George? Okay. All right then. Well, we can work on it at the next meeting. It's not the end of the world. So, is there any question about what we have to do? Since George didn't get a chance to work on that in between this last meeting, we'll discuss it at the next meeting. But is there any questions on that, what we just discussed?
One comment?
Yeah.
I just think we should definitely keep the time restriction in there. I think we should have that ability.
Okay.
Can't have a business running on.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we should be able to settle it then and work on it. Okay, next item, 7B.